My name is Lady Hazelthorn, and today I bring you a story not just about fame, but about transformation, struggle, reinvention, and the courage to grow under the burning spotlight of the world. This is the story of a girl who was born into a world where millions already knew her name. A girl who opened her eyes in a house where cameras never stopped rolling. A girl who felt the weight of fame long before she learned the meaning of privacy. Yes, today we talk about Kylie Jenner, one of the most influential celebrities of our time, the face of modern beauty culture, a billionaire entrepreneur, and a young woman who rebuilt herself again and again, in front of the entire world. But before the magazines, before the runways, before the storms of social media, there was a child growing up in a world where every mistake, every emotion, every insecurity was magnified, judged, and analyzed. And in that chaos, she tried to understand who she truly was. In today's story, I, Lady Hazelthorn, will take you behind the curtain. I'll tell you how her childhood shaped her, what challenges she silently fought, and how destiny brought me face to face with her, in a moment that changed the way I saw fame forever. As a journalist, I've met many celebrities. But the day I met Kylie Jenner, I saw something different. A girl who had lived 1,000 lives before turning 20. A girl carrying a universe of stories behind her eyes. So stay with me, because today, we begin a journey through her life. A journey of heartbreak, ambition, courage, and the evolution of a girl who became a global icon. This is not just a biography. This is an emotional exploration. A deep look into the life behind the glamour. A world where loneliness hides behind luxury and strength grows in silence. Welcome to the life of Kylie Jenner. The early shadows of Kylie Jenner. I remember the very first moment I began digging into Kylie Jenner's early life. Not the magazine covers, not the lip kits, not the billion-dollar empire. No. I went deeper, behind the curtains, behind the glamour, behind the carefully curated images, into the quiet world of a young girl who grew up under the harshest light any child could ever face. And as I started reading, watching, listening, a realization shook me. Kylie didn't grow into fame. She was born into it. She didn't chase the spotlight chased her. Crescent Moon, Los Angeles, a city that never sleeps. Kylie Kristen Jenner was born on August 10th, 1997, in Los Angeles, California, the city of dreams. But what most people don't understand is that LA is also the city of expectations, the city where a single mistake can follow you for life, the city where a rumor can grow louder than your own heartbeat. While other children woke up to the sound of alarm clocks, Kylie woke up to the hum of cameras, the quiet buzz of microphones being tested, the whispers of producers discussing the day's scenes, the footsteps of crew members in the hallways. Imagine being 3, 4, 5 years old and realizing that your house isn't just a home. It's a set where everything you do might become a storyline. For Kylie, privacy was a luxury she never had. Her laughter, her tears, her childhood, everything happened under the public eye. Seedling a childhood lived on television. As a journalist, I've studied many celebrities. But Kylie was different. She didn't get famous, she inherited fame. Her family, the Kardashians, were already a global sensation. Her older sisters were icons, trendsetters, unstoppable personalities. And in the middle of all that noise, stood little Kylie, quiet, soft-spoken, observant. She watched as her sisters became megastars. She watched as the world loved them, judged them, and demanded more. But somewhere in that crowded home, full of glamour and chaos, Kylie struggled with a question no child should have to ask. Who am I? When everyone already thinks they know me. This question shaped her entire early life. School backpack school life, the silent struggle. At school, things weren't as glamorous as people imagine. Her classmates knew her, but not the real her. They knew the girl they saw on TV. Imagine walking into class and hearing whispers behind your back. about your family's drama that aired the night before. Imagine being judged, not for what you did, but for what your family said, what your sisters wore, or what your parents fought about on screen. This wasn't just pressure. It was emotional weight. Kylie often felt like she didn't fit in. She wasn't the loudest girl. She wasn't the most confident. She wasn't the star of the classroom. She was the girl who liked to sit alone sometimes, drawing shapes in her notebook, staring out the window, dreaming of a world where she could just be herself. The world saw fame, but Kylie felt isolation. Broken heart, the pain of insecurity. People look at Kylie today and see beauty, glamour, success. But what they don't see is the little girl who struggled with insecurity. Growing up in a family full of bold personalities made her feel small, overshadowed, unheard, unseen. She compared herself to her sisters. She compared her looks, her height, her voice, her confidence. Imagine millions of viewers commenting on your appearance before you even reach high school. That does something to a child's heart. It shapes their thoughts. It carves their fears. It builds silent walls. Kylie often hid behind hoodies, behind makeup, behind anything that could protect her from the judgmental eyes of the world. But even in her insecurities, a spark was forming, a spark that one day would become an empire. House with garden, a home that wasn't just a home. While other children played in backyard swings, her house became a working studio. Rooms were rearranged. Spaces were redesigned. Conversations were sometimes repeated, just to capture the right angle. Kylie learned early in life that she had two identities: the girl the world saw, the girl she truly was. And these two versions of herself were constantly fighting. Sparkle's quiet observations, the seed of a future mogul. Even as a child, Kylie watched everything around her with a level of awareness far beyond her age. She saw how fame worked. She saw how trends were created. She saw how fashion influenced people. She saw how her sisters built brands and turned attention into power. Slowly, quietly, Kylie began to understand something important. The world of beauty wasn't just about looks. It was about influence. And influence was something she was born with. But before she could build anything, she needed to find herself, her voice, her identity, her place in the world. Milky Way, the moment I realized her story was different. As I prepared my notes for the day I met her, I expected confidence, perfection, glamour. But I learned something surprising instead. Kylie was once a child, searching for the courage to accept herself. A child who learned early that the world can love you and still make you feel alone. A child who felt too ordinary in a family of extraordinary personalities. A child who questioned her worth long before she found her power. And when I finally met her, that truth lived in her eyes. Crystal ball, the beginning of a transformation. Before she became a beauty mogul, before she launched her empire, before she broke records and changed the industry, she was simply Kylie, a girl trying to understand who she was. And sometimes, that journey begins in the darkest corners of our childhood. This is where her real story begins. In the early shadows, before the spotlight, because sometimes the world's biggest stars are shaped silently, long before anyone notices their light. As Kylie stepped into her teenage years, her world became even more complex. A strange mix of two completely different lives surrounded her at every moment. On one side, she was just a schoolgirl, taking notes, sitting in classrooms, trying to understand math problems, feeling nervous before exams, sharing jokes with friends. A normal teenager with normal fears. But on the other side, she was a global face. Someone millions of people watched, followed, and commented on. Someone whose every expression, outfit, and emotion became a topic of discussion. This double life shaped her in ways most people can't imagine. The expanding pressure of fame. As the Kardashian family's show grew bigger, The spotlight on Kylie grew harsher. Episodes of the show captured moments she didn't even know would matter. Private feelings became public drama. Teenage insecurities became topics for strangers. People watched her grow, judged her growth, and expected her to constantly be perfect, even though she was only a child learning about herself. Fame was never something she chased. It was something handed to her, before she even knew what the world expected from her. And this sudden weight left a permanent imprint on her heart. Living in the shadows of big personalities, growing up in a family filled with strong, confident women, was both inspiring and overwhelming. Her sisters, Kim, Courtney, Chloe, and Kendall, were already dominating fashion, beauty, modeling, and entertainment. Everywhere Kylie went, people compared her to them. Kendall is the supermodel. Kim is the beauty queen. Chloe is the strong one. So, what about Kylie? This question echoed around her. More times than she liked to admit. She often felt lost in their shadow, like she didn't have a defined identity of her own. And from a young age, that feeling became her silent battle, the deepest insecurity. There was one thing Kylie struggled with the most: her lips. She felt they were too thin, too simple, and not attractive enough. These thoughts didn't come overnight. They came from years of living under scrutiny, years of hearing comments, years of comparing herself to people around her. She would stand in front of the mirror, experimenting with different lip shapes, trying new makeup techniques, learning how to transform her face, just to feel a little more confident. She didn't know it back then, but this insecurity would one day become the spark that would change her entire life. Finding a voice through social media. At the age when most teenagers were scared to post a picture, Kylie discovered something powerful: the world of social media. And unlike television, social media allowed her to control her own story. Every photo she posted, every look she tried, every caption she wrote, it showed the world a version of her that she chose. Slowly, people started paying attention, not because of her famous family, but because of her. They liked her style. They followed her trends. They copied her looks. For the first time in her life, Kylie felt seen, not as someone's younger sister, but as Kylie Jenner. This new sense of identity ignited a confidence within her that she had never felt before. The mind of a future mogul begins to form. As she posted on social media, she wasn't just uploading pictures. She was studying reactions. She observed which colors worked, which poses attracted attention, which looks inspired people, which styles became trends. She noticed that girls from all over the world were trying to recreate her makeup. She began to understand influence, how a single trend could shift markets, how a single post could create waves. Behind her soft, shy personality, a business mind was quietly growing. Without realizing it, she was laying the foundation of a beauty empire that would one day shock the world. The silent conflict within her heart, even as her popularity grew, the heaviness inside her didn't disappear. She often wondered, am I good enough? Am I beautiful without makeup? Do people follow me because of me or because of my family? These questions lived inside her, shaping her emotions and molding her decisions. But every time she felt lost, she went back to the same mirror she had stared into since childhood and tried to discover herself once again. She didn't know whether she wanted fame or whether she simply wanted to be understood. But slowly, the confusing years of her teenage life were leading her toward a transformation that no one saw coming. A storm of change approaches. Her insecurities, her comparisons, her silence, her longing to be something more. All of these emotions were mixing inside her, like the early winds of a storm that would soon explode into a revolution in the beauty industry, a storm that would turn a shy girl into one of the most powerful young women on the planet, a storm that would define an era. And as she stood on the edge of this transformation, something extraordinary was being born inside her. a fierce version of herself that the world had never seen before. Her journey was only getting louder, brighter, bigger. And I, Lady Hazelthorn, continued to watch this evolution closely, knowing that the world was about to witness a drastic shift in her story, a rise that began quietly and changed everything. There comes a moment in every young person's life when the world stops shaping them and they begin shaping the world. For Kylie, that moment arrived quietly, not with cameras, not with headlines, but with a deep internal shift that no one else could see, a moment where the shy girl started turning into something stronger, something sharper, something unstoppable. This is the chapter where her life took a new direction. Milky Way, a new kind of attention. Kylie had always been noticed. People recognized her face, recognized her last name, recognized the show she grew up on. But now, the attention began to change. People weren't just watching her. They were following her. They wanted to know what she wore, how she did her hair, what makeup she used, what colors she liked, what music she listened to. For the first time, Kylie wasn't standing behind her sister's spotlight. She was creating her own light, a softer, different, more mysterious glow that people couldn't ignore. And as her confidence grew, so did her influence. As the world begins to notice her transformation, her face began appearing everywhere. On Instagram Explore pages, on fashion blogs, on teen magazines, on YouTube channels where girls tried to copy her look. She didn't plan any of this. She didn't chase publicity. She didn't run after fame. She was simply expressing herself, and the world was reacting. People connected with her authenticity, her softness, her silence, her quiet style. There was something magnetic about the way she carried herself, simple yet powerful, young yet self-aware, insecure yet brave enough to show the world her evolution. And that rare combination made her stand out in an era of noise. Mobile phone, the digital queen emerges. No one, not even Kylie, knew that she was rewriting social media history. She wasn't trying to be a pioneer. She was just being herself. But in that effortless expression, she changed the rules of what social media influence could be. Suddenly, every picture of hers was a trend. Every caption was a statement. Every look was a tutorial waiting to happen. Her followers skyrocketed. Her engagement exploded. Her name became a keyword that brands wished they could buy. Girls felt her. Boys noticed her. Brands studied her. Trendsetters followed her. Celebrities acknowledged her. And for someone who grew up feeling overshadowed, this was the beginning of a transformation that felt like stepping out of a long, dark tunnel into a world full of possibilities. Lipstick, her love for makeup turns into purpose. Makeup had always been her armor, her safety, her comfort. But now, it became her passion. She wasn't just applying products. She was experimenting with shapes, with illusions, with new identities. Lip liners, gloss, shadows. They weren't just tools anymore. They were her medium of expression. Every time she created a look, she was building a piece of her future, without realizing it. And the world wasn't just watching. It was copying, learning, admiring. Her insecurity about her lips, the very thing that once hurt her the most, was now becoming her signature look. Life has a strange way of working. Sometimes the wounds we try hardest to hide become the reasons we grow stronger. Stop sign the struggle behind the smile. But on the inside, Kylie was still dealing with battles the public never saw. The criticism was constant. People judged her body, her voice, her style, her friends, her choices, her face. Teenagers online can be harsh. Journalists can be intrusive. Strangers can be cruel. She faced thousands of comments about her lips, her makeup, her appearance. They didn't know they were attacking something she was already insecure about. But she didn't break. She didn't collapse. Instead, she evolved. Kylie learned to take the pain and turn it into power. She learned to take criticism and turn it into creativity. She learned to take insecurity and turn it into identity. High voltage, the spark of an empire forms. Somewhere inside her, a new idea began to grow. What if makeup wasn't just something she loved, but something she could build? What if beauty wasn't just her passion, but her future? What if the very feature she once hated could become the foundation of a global brand? These questions didn't come suddenly. They formed slowly, layer by layer, experience by experience, insecurity by insecurity. A seed was growing, a seed that would one day turn into $1 billion tree. But for now, the world didn't see it. Only she felt it, a quiet whisper inside her, telling her that she was meant for more, much more. Crescent moon, a quiet beginning before a big revolution. What no one knew at this time was that Kylie was standing on the edge of the biggest turning point of her life, a moment where the shy teenager would transform into a visionary with extraordinary instincts, a moment where the world would stop asking, "Who is she?" and start saying, "Look what she just created." The storm inside her was building strength, and soon, very soon, that storm would burst into the world and reshape the entire beauty industry. The quiet girl was preparing to become an icon, and the world had no idea what was coming. I, Lady Hazelthorn, find myself returning again and again to that early picture of Kylie's life, the one the world never sees. The world only sees makeup, fame, cameras, mansions, and magazine covers. But long before she became a global icon, she was just a young girl standing in the hallways of a school where every whisper felt like a judgment and every glance felt like a headline. Kylie grew up in a home filled with lights, cameras, and the pressure to be perfect. And while other kids carried school bags, she carried expectations. Expectations heavier than any textbook. She didn't choose fame. Fame chose her. And that is a burden very few people understand. Even as a child, Kylie would often sit silently in the back seat of her mom's car, staring outside the window, wondering why her life felt so different. Why she couldn't just be a normal girl. Why every mistake, every insecurity, every awkward teenage moment would end up in front of millions. There were days when she felt invisible even while being watched by the whole world. Days when she questioned who she truly was behind the makeup, behind the cameras, behind the famous last name. And as she stepped into her teenage years, the world became even louder. Comments about her looks, comparisons with her sisters, opinions from strangers who knew nothing about her heart. All of this carved deep marks inside her. Marks that would later shape her into a woman of iron. But even in those early struggles, there were sparks of something powerful inside her. A hunger to create, a desire to build something of her own, something that wasn't connected to anyone else's fame. I remember the day I met her for the very first time as a journalist. She walked into the room quietly, not like the loud social media queen the world thinks she is, but like a girl who's still trying to find her place. She sat opposite me, tucked a loose hair behind her ear, and smiled, the soft, unsure smile of someone who has lived under a microscope for far too long. When I asked her about her childhood, she didn't talk about red carpets or fame. She talked about loneliness. She talked about the pressure to stay flawless, even when she felt broken. She talked about the nights she would cry because she thought she wasn't beautiful enough, confident enough, strong enough. But then her voice shifted. She said something I will never forget. Maybe life made me grow up too fast, but it also pushed me to become someone I never thought I could be. That was the moment I realized. This girl wasn't running from the world. She was preparing to take it over. Kylie's transformation didn't begin on a makeup table. It began in those quiet, painful moments when she felt she wasn't enough, because every insecurity she ever felt became the fuel that launched her empire. The world saw a teenage girl experimenting with lip colors, but what she was really doing was designing a future so powerful it would shake the entire beauty industry. And as she continued telling me her story, I could see it, that fire, that sharp, determined spark in her eyes. A spark that said, I'm more than a reality show. I'm more than a famous family. I will build something that is mine. That spark would soon become a storm that would change the meaning of beauty standards forever. Little did the world know, the girl they criticized for her looks was about to redefine beauty for an entire generation. Little did the world know, the girl they dismissed as just another Kardashian sister was about to build a billion-dollar brand with her own name written across it. And little did they know, the girl who once hid behind filters and lights was about to step into a spotlight she created herself. This is where her true rise begins. Not in fame, but in fire. Not in comfort, but in chaos. Not in privilege, but in pain, the kind of pain that makes legends. And as she told me this chapter of her life, I realized something profound. Kylie didn't become Kylie by accident. She became Kylie because she refused to let the world define her. So, she defined herself. Her journey was only beginning, and the world had no idea what was coming next. As our journey continues, I want you to imagine a young Kylie standing at a crossroads most adults never face. Fame was not something she earned. It was something she inherited. But power is something she had to build herself. The world watched her every move, every flaw, every insecurity. And while the cameras captured her face, they never captured the storms she carried inside. She often said that growing up in front of the world is like standing in a glass room. Everyone can see you, but no one can hear you. And in that silent glass room, Kylie began to change. She wasn't the loud one. She wasn't the rebellious one. She wasn't the crazy headline maker. She was the quiet observer, the girl who soaked in every moment, every conversation, every lesson life threw at her. She learned how people reacted. She studied what they admired. She noticed what they copied. She understood trends before they became trends. Even as a teenager, she had a mind wired for business. But the world didn't see that yet. They only saw the shy smiles, the makeup experiments, the hesitant confidence. Behind closed doors, though, Kylie was slowly shaping her identity. Not as a celebrity daughter, not as a TV personality, but as a creator. She'd spend hours in her room mixing colors, testing shades, staring at her reflection, not out of vanity, but out of curiosity. She asked herself quietly, what if I could create something? Something that didn't belong to the cameras, something that belonged only to me. That question would become her destiny. But destiny never comes without darkness. During her teenage years, the criticism grew crueler. People online called her names, picked apart her appearance, judged her harshly for every change she went through. Most girls her age feared exams, friendships, and fitting in. Kylie feared the internet, a place where millions felt entitled to tear her down. She'd often delete pictures, hide from comments, stay off social media for days because even confidence can break under constant attack. But here is the part the world never saw. Every time Kylie broke, she rebuilt herself stronger. Every insult became insight. Every judgment became motivation. Every sleepless night became strategy. She studied the very people who criticized her. She learned what they wanted, what they wished they had, what they secretly admired. And slowly, she began designing something that would silence them forever. I still remember the moment she leaned forward during our conversation, her voice low but steady, and she said, "Sometimes the world forces you to believe you're not enough. And that's when you decide to become more than anyone ever expected." And that was exactly what she did. Her transformation wasn't a sudden glow-up. It was a craft, built day by day, insecurity by insecurity. As she entered her late teens, she realized she didn't want to live a life chosen for her. She wanted to choose her own path. For the first time, she felt the stirrings of independence. A quiet whisper inside her saying, "Create, build, become." So she began surrounding herself with people who saw her potential instead of her fame. People who understood her creative hunger. People who encouraged her ideas instead of diminishing them. She listened, learned, and planned. She paid attention to what young girls struggled with. She paid attention to her own journey, her insecurities, her self-discovery, her reinvention. And she knew there was something powerful hidden inside that experience. The world kept watching her as a celebrity, but she had already started thinking like a founder. She knew she wanted to build something big, something that had her fingerprints, her vision, her soul. Deep inside, she felt her life was heading toward a turning point. A moment where she would no longer be the girl shaped by fame, but the woman who would shape an empire. And as she told me these things, I could see her remembering every step, every fragile moment, every bruise life gave her, every spark she carried like a secret flame. She didn't rise because she had everything. She rose because she learned how to use what she had. And somewhere in those early years, the foundation of Kylie Cosmetics was already forming. Not in a boardroom, not in a professional studio, but in the quiet corners of a young girl's mind, a girl who refused to be just a face on a screen. She was preparing to become a name on millions of lips, quite literally. Her story was marching toward its most powerful chapter, a chapter the world would never forget. A chapter where the doubted girl becomes the industry-defining queen. And trust me, when that chapter begins, the world will finally understand the meaning of transformation. Because Kylie Jenner wasn't born a legend. She built herself into one, piece by piece, bruise by bruise, dream by dream. And her rise was only just beginning. As her teenage years unfolded, Kylie began to understand something most people never realize in their entire lives. That every limitation the world placed on her could be turned into an advantage. Where others saw pressure, she saw possibility. Where others saw criticism, she saw conversation. Where others saw fame, she saw influence. Influence that could be shaped, refined, and transformed into a force of her own. But her path was not smooth. The emotional weight of being constantly judged never truly left her. There were nights she would stare into the mirror, not to admire herself, but to search for the girl behind all the noise. The girl who barely knew who she was, yet was expected to know exactly who she should become. She often felt caught between two worlds, the world the cameras created, and the world her heart longed for. I asked her once, what was the hardest part of growing up famous? She didn't mention pressure or expectations. She whispered something far heavier. The hardest part was not knowing which version of me people loved, and which version of me they hated. Imagine carrying that confusion at an age where most kids are still trying to figure out their favorite outfit. Kylie was trying to figure out her identity, while millions watched. But this confusion didn't weaken her. It refined her. Slowly, Kylie began studying not just the world around her, but herself. She started asking questions only she could answer. What makes me feel confident? What makes me feel powerful? What makes me feel like me? And the answer kept pointing back to the same place. Her creativity. Her early makeup experiments were more than hobbies. They were expressions of her identity. Each color a rebellion, each style a declaration, each look a small reminder of who she wanted to be. She wasn't hiding behind makeup. She was discovering herself through it. The world saw contouring. She saw courage. The world saw lipstick. She saw liberation. The world saw trend following. She saw trend making. Yet for a long time, she kept these ideas private. Because before she could convince the world, she was something more. She had to convince herself. And this was the season of her life where she slowly, quietly began doing exactly that. There were moments she would sit alone in her room, surrounded by brushes, palettes, textures, and colors, like an artist preparing for a masterpiece only she could imagine. She wasn't thinking about fame. She wasn't thinking about business. She wasn't thinking about billions. She was thinking about confidence, something she had spent her entire life searching for. And she realized something powerful. If makeup could transform her confidence, maybe it could do the same for millions of other girls. That idea didn't arrive like lightning. It arrived like a whisper, soft, persistent, undeniable. At the same time, the outside world kept pushing her further into self-doubt. People questioned her beauty, her choices, her worth. Every rumor became a headline. Every small change became a global debate. She once told me, "People wanted to define me so badly that eventually I got tired. So I started defining myself instead." That was the turning point. The moment Kylie decided to stop reacting to the world and start shaping it. But before she could rise, she had to outgrow the shadows that followed her everywhere. She learned to stop seeking validation. She learned to stop comparing herself with her sisters. She learned to stop apologizing for wanting something more. Piece by piece, she was breaking out of the mold the world had built for her. Her confidence didn't return overnight. It returned gradually, like sunlight filling a room that had been dark for too long. With every new look she created, she felt a glimmer of power. With every new color she mixed, she felt a spark of independence. These creative experiments were no longer simple teenage habits. They were blueprints of a future empire forming quietly, secretly, beautifully. And while the world continued to underestimate her, she was quietly growing sharper, stronger, wiser. She watched how brands marketed. She observed how trends changed. She understood what the younger generation felt. She knew what insecurities they had because she had them too. She wasn't learning business from books. She was learning it from life. By the time the world saw her stepping into adulthood, she wasn't just a celebrity anymore. She was a strategist, a thinker, a visionary. She knew the moment was coming. The moment she would step out from the shadows of her famous family and step into the spotlight she crafted with her own hands. There was a fire inside her now, not wild, not chaotic, but focused. A fire that said, "I am ready, ready to build, ready to lead, ready to become something the world had never expected her to be." What the world didn't know was that the ideas simmering inside her were about to ignite into something historic. A revolution in beauty, a shift in culture, a brand that would start small and then explode into global dominance. Her rise was no longer a possibility. It was a promise. And the world had absolutely no idea what was coming. The transformation was subtle at first, almost invisible to the outside world. A glance here, a whispered decision there, a quiet observation in the corner of her room. Kylie was learning the art of patience, the kind of patience only a person who has grown under constant scrutiny can understand. She learned that influence wasn't instantaneous. It didn't arrive with a magazine cover or a social media post. It arrived quietly, piece by piece, decision by decision, vision by vision. She watched how people reacted to her older sisters. She saw the praise, the criticism, the opportunities, the mistakes. She didn't imitate them. She learned from them. She understood that what she would build had to be hers, entirely hers. Her identity, her creativity, her empire. Even in those quiet moments, she began experimenting. She tried colors she had never worn, styles she had never imagined. Every small experiment taught her something new. Every mistake revealed a lesson. Every late-night reflection shaped a strategy. And then came the social media era. What others saw as a platform for vanity, Kylie saw as a classroom. A testing ground, a laboratory where she could observe the world and understand human desire. She posted selfies, makeup looks, lip shapes, not for attention, not for fame, but to explore influence, and it worked. Followers grew. Trends shifted. People began to copy her, not because she demanded it, but because they felt drawn to her vision. She was learning something most adults never do. Control your narrative, or it will control you. In the midst of this growth, Kylie's inner dialogue became sharper. She asked herself questions few people ask in a lifetime. What do I stand for? What impact do I want to have? How can I turn my insecurities into strength? And she discovered a remarkable truth. The very things she once hid behind, her lips, her style, her personality, would become the tools for her greatest achievements. The girl who spent years questioning herself was now quietly preparing to become unstoppable. But transformation is never easy. Behind the smiles, the selfies, the public appearances, there were still nights of doubt, questions about worth, fear of failure, The weight of expectations that had been placed on her before she could even comprehend them. And yet, she persevered. Every criticism was a lesson. Every setback a stepping stone. Every whisper of doubt, a spark to ignite her fire. Kylie began to understand another important truth. You don't need the world to recognize your potential. You only need yourself. With this realization came clarity. Her focus sharpened. Her ambitions became precise. The tiny experiments in her bedroom, the quiet observations, the hours spent perfecting her skills, they were all leading to a defining moment. She started thinking not just about looks or trends, but about business. She envisioned a brand that would start small but reach far beyond what anyone imagined. She understood the desires of her generation because she lived them herself. She could feel what they wanted, what they needed, and how she could deliver it, not as a celebrity, but as a creator. Her early life had prepared her perfectly. The pressures, the insecurities, the criticisms, all had sharpened her instincts and made her resilient. And quietly, decisively, she began building. A small vision, yes, but one that would grow into something monumental. In those moments, Kylie was no longer just the youngest Jenner sister. She was an innovator, a strategist, a visionary preparing to change the world. I remember seeing it in her eyes. The same eyes that had once reflected doubt and insecurity, now shining with determination. A fire was alive in her gaze, a fire that said, I am more than what you see. I am more than you know. And I will create a future that is mine alone. And that is when I understood the essence of her story. Kylie Jenner's life isn't defined by fame, money, or social media. It is defined by resilience, by vision, and by a refusal to be confined by the world's expectations. Her journey from uncertainty to unstoppable force was unfolding right before my eyes. And as she prepared to step into the next chapter of her life, one thing was undeniable. The world had no idea the revolution it was about to witness. Because the girl who once hid in shadows was now ready to shine. Not just in lights, cameras, or magazine covers, but in influence, power, and legacy. The rise of Kylie Jenner was no longer a story of potential. It had become a story of destiny, a destiny she was determined to claim. The moment Kylie decided to take control of her story, everything began to shift. It was no longer about living in the shadows of others. It was about stepping forward, quietly, deliberately, and with a vision only she could see. She began experimenting with ideas that had been floating in her mind for years. Not flashy ideas, not schemes to gain attention, but concepts born from her own experiences, her insecurities, and her desires. The lips she once feared became her signature. The colors she loved became her tools. The tiny adjustments she had spent years perfecting in front of the mirror were about to become a global phenomenon. She didn't announce it. She didn't scream it from rooftops. She tested quietly, measured carefully, and learned from every small step. Kylie was building a foundation stronger than fame, stronger than money, stronger than influence. A foundation based on vision, authenticity, and connection. She understood one vital truth. The world doesn't just respond to celebrity. It responds to identity. It responds to someone who knows who they are and isn't afraid to show it. And so she began. Small steps at first. A few products. Simple packaging. Honest ideas. But every detail was deliberate. Every choice had purpose. She reached out to her audience directly. Not as the youngest Jenner sister. Not as a television star. But as Kylie, the girl who understood their insecurities because she shared them. The girl who wanted to give confidence, not just beauty. The girl who wanted to create more than a product, she wanted to create a movement. And slowly, the world began to notice. Social media became her stage. Her followers watched, learned, and emulated. But more importantly, they trusted her. Because Kylie wasn't just selling makeup. She was sharing herself, her story, her transformation. Every product launch, every new shade, every bold choice reflected her journey. From a quiet, insecure teenager to a confident, visionary woman. And as she grew, so did her strategy. She paid attention to the market. She studied trends. She identified gaps. She didn't just follow success, she engineered it. Even her critics began to notice. The girl who had once been overlooked, underestimated, and judged was quietly building an empire that no one could ignore. But Kylie's rise was never about shortcuts. It was about resilience, intelligence, and patience. About understanding that real power doesn't arrive overnight, but is earned through strategy, observation, and relentless determination. She combined her creativity with her instinct for business. She leveraged her social media influence with precision. And she transformed what others saw as insecurity into an unforgettable brand identity. The world had only glimpsed her confidence. They had only seen the glamour, the trends, the red carpets. But what they didn't see, what most people never see, was the depth of focus, the countless hours of planning, the sleepless nights, the endless self-reflection, the determination to define herself on her own terms. And then it happened. The spark became a flame. The flame became a fire. The girl who once felt overshadowed by fame and expectation was now creating her own legacy. Her brand began to explode. Not because she demanded it, not because she wanted recognition, but because she had prepared herself, honed her vision, and earned it. And the world couldn't deny it anymore. Kylie Jenner had stepped out of the shadows, not as a celebrity sister, not as a reality TV star, but as a businesswoman, an innovator, and a trendsetter. I remember thinking as I watched her journey unfold, this wasn't just about makeup. This was about identity. This was about taking control of your story, transforming insecurities into power, and redefining what it means to rise on your own terms. The girl who had once questioned her worth was now teaching millions how to feel confident. The girl who had once hidden behind cameras was now the face of an empire. The girl who had once doubted herself was now unstoppable. And the journey was far from over. Because when Kylie decides to rise, she doesn't just reach the top. She reshapes the world around her. Her story is a reminder that legends are not born. They are built. Carefully, patiently, deliberately. And as I sat across from her, witnessing her evolution, I realized something undeniable. Kylie Jenner is not just a product of her family, her fame, or her audience. She is a product of herself. And that, more than anything, is the power of her story. Kylie's rise to power didn't happen by chance. It happened by design, quiet, patient, and deliberate design. Every choice, every experiment, every small victory in her teenage years had prepared her for this moment. She understood something few people grasp. Fame can be a gift, but it is fleeting. Influence can be powerful, but it is meaningless without purpose. And opportunity can arrive at any moment, but only preparation allows you to seize it. So she prepared. She studied, observed, experimented, and reflected. And when the right moment came, she was ready. That moment came with a product, a simple one, yet revolutionary. A lip kit. But not just any lip kit. This one reflected her journey, her creativity, her understanding of desire, her empathy for every young girl who had ever felt insecure, overlooked, or unsure. It wasn't just makeup. It was confidence. It was empowerment. It was Kylie's story, distilled into color, texture, and formula. The world noticed immediately. Fans waited for launches like events. Followers recreated every look. Social media buzzed with excitement, tutorials, reviews, and admiration. And Kylie watched quietly, absorbing every reaction, learning every lesson, refining every product. Her teenage experiments, the long hours in front of mirrors, the endless self-reflection, they had all led to this. Her insecurities had become innovation. Her observation had become strategy. Her determination had become empire. Kylie Cosmetics exploded because she understood the essence of connection. Not just between her products and her fans, but between herself and the world. People didn't just want her lipstick. They wanted her story. They wanted to feel what she felt, aspire to what she aspired to, and be inspired by her journey from uncertainty to self-made success. And with every launch, every new shade, every new idea, her brand grew, not just in size, but in cultural influence. Kylie wasn't simply a businesswoman. She was a phenomenon, a trendsetter, a global icon. The beauty industry took notice. Competitors watched, copied, and adapted. Media celebrated her achievements. And yet, for all the attention, Kylie remained focused. She didn't lose herself in applause. She didn't get distracted by critics. She had a vision, and she pursued it relentlessly. It wasn't luck. It wasn't inheritance. It wasn't fame alone. It was strategy, preparation, and resilience. It was turning years of self-doubt into the fuel for success. It was transforming teenage insecurity into an empire. Kylie Cosmetics exploded because she understood the essence of connection. Not just between her products and her fans, but between herself and the world. People didn't just want her lipstick. They wanted her story. They wanted to feel what she felt, aspire to what she aspired to, and be inspired by her journey from uncertainty to self-made success. And with every launch, every new shade, every new idea, her brand grew, not just in size, but in cultural influence. Kylie wasn't simply a businesswoman. She was a phenomenon, a trendsetter, a global icon. The beauty industry took notice. Competitors watched, copied, and adapted. Media celebrated her achievements. And yet, for all the attention, Kylie remained focused. She didn't lose herself in applause. She didn't get distracted by critics. She had a vision, and she pursued it relentlessly. It wasn't luck. It wasn't inheritance. It wasn't fame alone. It was strategy, preparation, and resilience. It was turning years of self-doubt into the fuel for success. It was transforming teenage insecurity into an empire. And as her company grew, so did her influence. She became more than a celebrity. She became a leader, an entrepreneur, a voice for empowerment, and an example of what it means to create your own destiny. But even in the spotlight, Kylie never forgot the lessons she had learned in private. The quiet moments of reflection, the times she doubted herself, the struggles that had shaped her vision. They remained her compass, her anchor, her guide. She had learned that real power is not in recognition, but in authenticity. Real influence is not in wealth, but in connection. And true success is not in being seen, but in becoming who you were always meant to be. Kylie's story is proof that legends are built. They are forged in the quiet hours, in the invisible moments, in the choices no one watches, and in the courage to create even when no one believes in you. Her journey from a young girl overwhelmed by expectations, to a teenage observer learning the art of influence, to a self-made global entrepreneur, is a story of transformation, vision, and determination. And as I reflect on her path, I can say with certainty, Kylie Jenner's legacy is not just in her empire. It is in the way she teaches us that anyone, anywhere, can rise beyond doubt, beyond criticism, beyond expectation, and build something extraordinary with the power of their own vision. The world saw a celebrity. The world saw a makeup line. The world saw a trendsetter. But I saw something more profound. I saw a young girl who refused to be defined by the world and became a woman who defined the world herself. Her rise is a reminder that transformation is possible for anyone, that strength can come from vulnerability, that courage can grow from insecurity, and that legends are built from the quiet, deliberate, unstoppable pursuit of one's own destiny. Once Kylie had found her footing with Kylie Cosmetics, the world truly began to notice. But she knew that staying relevant required more than luck, more than fame, more than influence. It required strategy, precision, vision, and the courage to evolve faster than the expectations of anyone watching. She began to think beyond a single product, beyond lip kits, beyond shadows and powders. Her mind was focused on building a brand that could grow globally, touch lives, and set trends for generations. Kylie understood that influence is a currency in the modern world, a currency far more valuable than wealth alone. And she wielded it carefully. Each post, each campaign, each launch was a calculated step designed to strengthen her connection with her audience. Her fans weren't just customers, they were part of her journey. They had watched her grow from a shy teenager experimenting in front of a mirror to a confident woman taking bold steps in business. They trusted her because she had lived what they lived. They connected with her because she was authentic, approachable, and relatable. And so Kylie expanded. Not recklessly, but deliberately. New products, collaborations, partnerships, limited editions. Each move carefully designed to build anticipation, excitement, and loyalty. The business world began to take notice. Analysts, investors, competitors, everyone watched her strategy. They marveled at how someone so young could understand the pulse of the market so intuitively. But Kylie had spent years learning, quietly, meticulously, and without fanfare. It wasn't just about makeup anymore. It was about empowerment. It was about connecting people with the confidence they needed to express themselves. It was about teaching millions of young women that they could take control of their identity, just as she had. And as her brand grew, so did her influence. Fashion houses sought her attention. Beauty brands wished to collaborate. Celebrities invited her to events, panels, and discussions. But Kylie didn't chase the spotlight. She created it. She shaped it. She controlled it. Her story became one of self-made authority. No one could claim her accomplishments for her. No one could diminish the empire she was building from scratch. And yet, even as the world saw her successes, Kylie remained grounded. She remembered the long nights of self-doubt, the whispers of insecurity, the moments when she questioned whether she was enough. Those experiences became the fuel for her next steps. Global expansion came next. Products shipped internationally. Collaborations reached new continents. Her social media influence became global in scope. She had moved from being a celebrity with a following to being a brand with worldwide recognition. Her empire was more than business. It became a cultural force. She set trends, not just followed them. She influenced tastes, styles, and aspirations. And in every decision there was clarity. Every choice reflected the careful calculation of someone who had lived under scrutiny and had transformed that pressure into strategy. Her journey taught a lesson the world could not ignore. That resilience combined with vision creates power that cannot be replicated. That influence, when used with intent, can become unstoppable. And through it all, Kylie remained herself. The young girl who had once experimented quietly in her room, unsure of her place in the world, had grown into a woman who commanded the world's attention, not because she demanded it, but because she had earned it through ingenuity, creativity, and authenticity. The world had underestimated her. They had compared her to others. They had doubted her abilities. But she didn't just rise. She soared. And in doing so, she inspired millions to believe that they too could rise, to trust their instincts, to pursue their vision, and to transform their dreams into reality. Kylie Jenner's global influence was more than fame. It was the embodiment of self-realization, strategy, and unwavering determination. And as I, Lady Hazelthorn, observed her journey, I realized the truth of her story. Legends are not born from luck. They are built from patience, vision, courage, and the relentless pursuit of one's destiny. Kylie's empire was more than cosmetics. It was a testament to the power of authenticity, a testament to the strength that emerges from insecurity, a testament to the remarkable heights one can reach when they refuse to be defined by anyone but themselves. And so the world watched, mesmerized, as a young girl who once wondered if she was enough became a global icon, a business mogul, and a legendary example of determination realized. Her story continues, not as a tale of fame, but as a lesson for anyone who dares to believe in their own power. That with vision, courage, and relentless effort, even the quietest spark can ignite a revolution. Kylie Jenner did not inherit her empire. She built it. She earned it. And she showed the world exactly what it means to rise, on your own terms, in your own time, and with your own unshakable strength. Even as Kylie's empire grew, the journey was never without struggle. The public saw the glamour, the wealth, the influence, and the headlines, but very few understood the battles she fought behind the scenes. She had learned early on that fame is both a gift and a burden. Every move was analyzed, every word dissected, every choice judged. And while many would crumble under such constant scrutiny, Kylie transformed it into fuel. Each criticism became a lesson. Every rumor sparked reflection. Every challenge honed her vision. She learned the power of resilience, the ability to rise above judgment and focus solely on what truly mattered, her goals, her brand, her legacy. But it wasn't just external pressure that shaped her. Kylie faced personal doubts that no one could see. Questions about identity, purpose, and self-worth lingered. Even as her influence grew, she wrestled with the idea. Am I enough? Am I doing it right? Can I truly define my own path? It was in these moments of uncertainty that Kylie's true strength emerged. She realized that greatness doesn't come from perfection. It comes from perseverance, from embracing flaws, insecurities, and fears, and using them as stepping stones rather than obstacles. She surrounded herself with mentors, advisors, and loyal friends. People who could guide her without compromising her vision. People who could offer perspective without dictating her choices. She learned to balance intuition with advice, creativity with strategy, and ambition with patience. And as she matured, Kylie began to think bigger. Not just about products or sales, but about the impact she could have on culture, on young women, on the global stage. She understood that influence is not merely about being seen. It's about creating movement. It's about inspiring confidence in others. It's about using your platform to empower, educate, and innovate. This realization shaped her decisions. She expanded Kylie Cosmetics carefully, methodically, introducing new products that reflected her understanding of the world's desires, not just her own. Her strategy worked brilliantly. The brand's global reach skyrocketed. Fans from every corner of the world engaged deeply with her products, campaigns, and social media presence. She became not just a businesswoman, but a cultural icon. Yet, despite all of this, Kylie never lost touch with the lessons from her youth. The nights of doubt, the moments of vulnerability, the feelings of being overlooked. They remained her compass. She remembered the girl who once experimented in front of mirrors, who once wondered if she was enough. And she carried that empathy into every decision she made. Kylie's personal growth mirrored her professional journey. She became more confident, more strategic, more intentional. She learned to trust herself. She learned to navigate criticism without losing sight of her vision. She learned that success is not defined by applause, but by the courage to continue, even when no one is watching. Her story became a blueprint for anyone aspiring to rise beyond expectation. It showed that challenges are not roadblocks, but opportunities. That self-doubt is not weakness, but a catalyst for reflection and growth. That true influence comes not from the world's approval, but from the authenticity and persistence to define your own path. And the world began to see her in a new light. No longer just a celebrity, no longer just a reality TV personality. Kylie was recognized as a visionary entrepreneur, a leader, and a role model. She had solidified her status as a global figure, a woman whose influence transcended beauty, fashion, and social media. Her story was about transformation, resilience, and self-empowerment. Every product, every campaign, every public appearance reinforced her message. That greatness is built, not inherited. That power is earned through perseverance, vision, and courage. And that even the youngest, most overlooked individual can rise to legendary heights. Kylie Jenner's journey is more than a tale of fame and wealth. It is a testament to the human spirit, a demonstration that challenges can be transformed into fuel, that self-doubt can be channeled into strategy, and that the journey from uncertainty to unstoppable force is possible for anyone who dares to believe in themselves. And as I reflect on her story, I realize this. Kylie's rise is not just about her achievements. It is about the power of vision, the strength of perseverance, and the courage to define your own destiny. From a quiet, uncertain teenager to a global icon, Kylie Jenner embodies the essence of what it means to become legendary. Not because the world made her, but because she made herself. Today, Kylie Jenner's story is no longer just about ambition or creativity. It is about mastery, about understanding that influence and power come with responsibility, and that maintaining them requires vision, strategy, and resilience. Her empire stretches far beyond cosmetics. It encompasses fashion, media, investments, and global partnerships. Every decision she makes is deliberate. Every move is measured. She has learned the delicate balance between staying authentic and remaining relevant. But what truly sets her apart is her ability to navigate pressure without losing herself. The scrutiny never ends. Every public appearance, every social media post, every business move is analyzed, dissected, and debated. The critics attempt to undermine her. Fans expect perfection. And yet, Kylie remains grounded. She learned that perfection is an illusion. That influence is not about being flawless. That authenticity and transparency resonate far more than any polished image. Her personal life, often under intense public scrutiny, has taught her lessons in resilience. She has faced criticism, rumors, and expectations about her relationships, motherhood, and lifestyle. And in every challenge, she has grown stronger. Kylie has learned to protect her energy, to focus on what truly matters, and to invest in her vision without distraction. She understands that maintaining influence requires balance between business, family, creativity, and self-care. Her daily life is a reflection of this balance. She is a mother, a sister, a daughter, a business leader, and a public figure. And yet, she remains fiercely committed to her own growth. Kylie has also mastered the art of evolution. She adapts to trends, embraces new technologies, and anticipates shifts in culture. Her influence is not static. It evolves with the world, just as she has evolved with it. Her empire today is a testament to vision turned into reality. Kylie Cosmetics remains a global powerhouse. Her collaborations influence fashion and beauty worldwide. Her investments and brand ventures continue to expand her reach beyond what anyone thought possible. And yet, her story remains deeply human. She is still the girl who experimented with colors in her bedroom. She is still the teenager who questioned her worth. She is still the young woman who learned to turn doubt into strategy and criticism into fuel. Kylie's journey teaches a vital lesson. Success is not only about achievement. It is about sustaining it. It is about evolving without losing authenticity. It is about building a legacy that endures beyond trends, beyond attention, beyond fleeting fame. And that is what Kylie has done. She has built a legacy that will influence generations. A legacy that proves resilience, vision, and self-belief can transform even the quietest spark into a global phenomenon. Her influence is more than business. It is cultural. It is social. It is a reflection of millions of young women and men who see in her journey the possibility of achieving their own dreams. And through all of this, she has never forgotten her roots. The lessons of childhood, the insecurities of adolescence, and the quiet moments of reflection remain her guide. They are the compass that directs every decision she makes, every product she launches, every collaboration she undertakes. Kylie Jenner today is more than a celebrity. She is a symbol of transformation, a masterclass in turning challenges into opportunity, self-doubt into strategy, and vision into an empire. And as I, Lady Hazelthorn, reflect on her incredible journey, I see clearly why her story resonates so deeply. It is not just about fame. It is not just about wealth. It is not just about beauty. It is about human potential, about what can be achieved when a young girl refuses to be defined by others, when she harnesses her creativity, her vision, and her courage, and when she commits herself fully to building her own destiny. Kylie Jenner's story is far from over. Her empire will continue to grow, her influence will continue to expand, and her journey will continue to inspire millions around the world. And one thing is certain. The girl who once doubted herself has become a legend in her own right. Not because the world celebrated her, but because she dared to create her own path, define her own rules, and rise to heights few imagined possible. Kylie Jenner is not just a name on a brand or a face on a screen. She is a testament to perseverance, vision, and the power of self-belief. And her story will continue to inspire generations to come. As we reach the culmination of Kylie Jenner's journey, it is important to pause and reflect on everything she has endured, achieved, and become. From a young girl quietly experimenting in her room to a woman commanding global influence, her story is nothing short of extraordinary. Kylie's rise was not accidental. It was deliberate, calculated, and earned. Every moment of doubt, every criticism, every challenge she faced along the way became a stepping stone toward greatness. She transformed insecurities into innovation, self-doubt into determination, and curiosity into an empire that now touches millions around the world. But her story is not just about products, fame, or wealth. It is about identity, authenticity, and resilience. Kylie teaches us that true power does not come from being born into opportunity. It comes from cultivating vision, nurturing talent, and refusing to be limited by the world's expectations. She shows us that challenges are not obstacles, they are opportunities. Mistakes are not failures, they are lessons. And even in moments of uncertainty, courage is always possible. Her empire today stretches across beauty, fashion, media, and culture. Her influence shapes trends, inspires millions, and empowers young women and men to pursue their dreams with boldness. She has proven that authenticity resonates more deeply than perfection, and that legacy is built by vision and perseverance, not just public admiration. Yet, despite all her achievements, Kylie remains grounded. She remembers the girl who once questioned her worth. She honors the experiences that shaped her. She embraces the journey, knowing that each struggle and triumph has defined her extraordinary story. And this is the essence of her legacy. Kylie Jenner is not just a celebrity or a businesswoman. She is a symbol of transformation, a living testament to the power of self-belief. A reminder that even the quietest spark can ignite a revolution if nurtured with passion, strategy, and courage. Her story closes not as a final chapter, but as an ongoing inspiration. Because Kylie's journey reminds us that greatness is not inherited, it is built. That influence is not granted, it is earned. That legends are not born, they are made through resilience, vision, and relentless dedication. As Lady Hazelthorn, I have witnessed her transformation firsthand. I have seen a girl once unsure of herself rise to become a global icon, a woman whose name is synonymous with empowerment, ambition, and creativity. And as she continues to inspire millions around the world, one truth remains clear. Kylie Jenner's story is a story for anyone who has ever doubted themselves, anyone who has ever faced criticism, anyone who has ever wondered if they were enough. Her journey teaches us that with vision, courage, and unwavering perseverance, we can rise above expectation, define our own path, and create a legacy that will endure for generations. So let us celebrate Kylie not only for her achievements, but for her journey, for the lessons she embodies, and for the example she sets for all of us. And as I share this story with you, remember this. No matter the challenges, no matter the doubts, no matter the obstacles, your own spark can become a revolution. Your own vision can become a legacy, and your own journey can inspire the world. Kylie Jenner is more than a celebrity. She is more than an entrepreneur. She is a legend, a visionary, and a reminder that the extraordinary is possible for anyone willing to believe in themselves and dedicate their life to building it. And with that, we close this chapter of her story, a story of courage, transformation, and unstoppable ambition. A story that will inspire countless others to rise, create, and define their own destiny. Kylie Jenner's legend has been written, and it will continue to shine for generations to come. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment below. Share your thoughts, and tell us which part of Kylie's journey inspired you the most. Stay with us for more inspiring stories of world-famous legends, and I, Lady Hazelthorn, will continue sharing stories that motivate and empower you.